lift your head and look around, you will be fine.
Hey everybody, thank you for being here. I have such a great guest in studio with us today from the Sunset Gower Studios here in Hollywood, Leslie Zemeckis. Thank you so much for being here.
Ooh, thank you.
Look at the massive studio audience we have here for you. You hear them? They're all clapping. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow. So you are, for those of you who might not know, actress, award-winning documentary filmmaker. You're going to be in a movie this upcoming December with Steve Carell. Welcome to
Marwin.
Marwin. Welcome to Marwin. We'll be talking about all this. But you're also here to talk about your latest book. Is this your third book?
Third book.
Third. Feuding Fan Dancers. I love this book. And it's about sort of the life of people in burlesque. Isn't that correct?
This is more showgirl. They did, both Sally Rand and Faith Bacon worked in burlesque houses because there was no place else really at after a certain time, after the 30s, 40s, for them to perform. But they were technically more showgirls. They didn't take off their clothes. They weren't in really burlesque reviews, although they were dancing naked behind their fans.
Okay. What was the fascination or interest, I should say, in burlesque? Because you've written quite a bit about it. Tell me.
I just found it to be a really interesting history. It's very important to our American pop culture that we don't realize. We don't realize what burlesque is. And nobody had ever really touched on the subject of it. But if you watch Saturday Night Live, you're watching burlesque.
How so?
It's a parody. It's making fun of stuff. It's what's topical. Politics and social and sexual mores is really what burlesque is.
Where did burlesque start?
It came over, there's a lot of different origins as things bubble up a little bit from France, from England, but
Germany.
It came from England. These shows where these girls had tights on and morphed into what a traditional burlesque show was in the 20s, 30s, and 40s would be a lineup of comedians and sexy girls and weird acts like acrobats or jugglers or anything like it. It was a variety show.
It's a variety show.
Yes.
It's kind of like an LSD variety show.
And a sexier one. I mean, there was blue comedy, and it was really for the common man. It was for the immigrants in New York who were in New York without their family. They couldn't afford to go to a big Broadway show. They couldn't speak the language, most likely.
Interesting.
But they could go to a burlesque show, and the comedy was so broad, if a sexy girl walked by, a comedian's tie would rise. They got it. They got the humor. So that's really what the basis of it was.
So for this particular book, you interviewed Faith Bacon and Sally Rand, correct?
I didn't. They had long been gone. I interviewed for my first film, and my first book was Behind the Burlesque, which is the history of burlesque, which is what started this whole thing. I met Sally's son, Sean, and nobody had ever really done anything on her, and she's so iconic. I mean, she's associated with the 1933 World's Fair. She worked up until her 70s, but nobody, again, really investigated who was Sally. How did she get to be?
Yeah, that's actually what I meant to say.
This fan dancer.
Tell us about her and tell us what was so fascinating about her that you wanted to write this.
Well, it actually started with Faith's story. I wrote a little bit about her. I actually wrote a little bit about both of them. Faith was a lot less known. Her story's more tragic. I won't go into all of it because you'll have to read the book. But they both were at the same time in the 30s. Faith was a Ziegfeld girl, the most beautiful girl in the world. She had this fan act. Sally had her fan act. She was in Chicago, 1933 World's Fair. And they both claimed to be the inventor of this dance. And that's really kind of what started their feud. And it was very, very public feud. And Faith sued Sally and a whole lot of drama. But they were, what partly fascinates me about everybody I've done anything on, whether it's the world's first tiger trainer or Daisy and Violet.
Mabel.
Yeah, Mabel Tiger trainer. Or my second film on Daisy and Violet Hilton, which were huge Siamese twins.
The Siamese twins. Would you tell us about that?
Oh, my God. They're so interesting. What it is these people that we have labels for. We have burlesque, we have stripper, we have fan dancer, we have Siamese twins, we have circus freak. But what's behind that? That people are more than that label. So that's what I really wanted to investigate. And they all, we were talking about 6 degrees of separation, they all have sort of ties to burlesque. The Siamese twins actually for a little while were in burlesque, which I found horrifying. And they were not happy about being it. But I really wanted to find out who these women were and bring heart to their story.
You know, you're right, because I told you my family is from Sarasota, Florida, home of the circus, the Ringling Circus, and he has a little museum there, actually pretty big museum now, right at his home there. I mean, he's long gone as well, at the Cul d'Azan.
And it's beautiful.
It's
beautiful.
Stunning.
Home.
So you've been there,
I have
clearly.
been
You
there.
know what I'm saying. And in fact, I grew up right around the block from there. And I would go to the circus museum and I'd see what they would call as freaks.
Right.
You know, the ostrich woman, the two-headed person. And I would think, even just as a kid, because of the way it's sold to you, like, oh, look at that. But oh my gosh, as you get older, you think, there's a story behind these people. Who are they? What do they feel like? How interesting that you bring these people to life for us.
But it's also, you know, it's also it's really our pop culture that we forget about. I mean, the circus entertained everybody for years and years and years because traditionally a lot of these small towns, they didn't have a zoo. Some didn't have a library. They didn't have film. So there was no other way to experience the outside world, an animal, anything different. They would recreate historical acts. They had the Wild West, Bill Wild West show. So it was really bringing these popular forms of entertainment. They had a cooch show on the side. So really circus, burlesque, vaudeville, they're all around the same time when they had their peaks and they were really entertaining. And we forget and we just dismiss it as old-fashioned and funny, but the stories are incredible, especially because they had to work so much harder, especially the women. There was a stigma to taking off your clothes. There was a stigma to being in this world. You were very much an outsider. You were miscast.
Why did they go into burlesque, in your opinion?
A lot of them, especially in the 30s, when there was very little opportunities for women, these women wanted something more. They wanted a little bit of glamour. They wanted to, a lot of them were just trying to survive and make a living, and that's what they can do.
Gosh, who would they have been today? You know, you're voting, you can run for office and win.
Right.
You can go to school and be hopefully whatever you'd like to be. It sounds to me like they were performers in their hearts, but there was nowhere for them to go necessarily unless they went through the system.
And they really created an act that was art for them, and it was really entertaining, and it afforded them, you know, some of them made gobs of money. Some of them were hugely famous. A lot of them did not come from... they came from very poor backgrounds with a lot of abuse, so it was really an escape for a lot of them.
Very, very interesting. Let's talk a little bit about the documentaries you've done. Let's talk about Mabel. That's pretty outstanding. Mabel Tiger trainer. She's the first female tiger trainer, right?
Yeah, it was Mabel Stark. She got started about 1911, 1914, was not born into a circus family, which was very hard to break into the circus unless you were.
So what did she do? Have tigers at home that she was playing around with? How did she get into that?
No, she stumbled upon a circus winter quarters that was here in Venice, California. And she said she heard this sound and she followed it, and it was a tiger in a cage, and she looked at this tiger and the tiger looked at her, and she absolutely fell in love and said, I'm going to work with tigers. Now, it's crazy because I would have no desire to do such a thing. Now, I went and filmed. I followed a couple circuses and some trainers, and I talked to a lot of female tiger trainers, and there's something really mesmerizing about these tigers. I understand it, but you absolutely see the danger in these animals. And Mabel, she had a very long career, 50, 60 years, completely scarred head to toe from her tigers. Never blamed them.
Can't.
No, and she knew what she was doing. She wasn't taking risks. But what really interested, one of the things that interested me about her story is when she got into the circus and she said, I want to work here. They're like, well, we'll give you a little goat act. She's like, no, I want to work the tiger. So she had to work her way up a little bit. But they also said, no woman can work with tigers. And she's like, oh, really? She gets an act together. She's got 18 tigers behind her. She's like, really? And she became one of the the biggest stars of the circus.
We've had to fight for so much. Do you ever
Continually.
ask yourself, though, why? Why are we always fighting for stuff? I mean, I'm just going back 100 years because, you know, what happened in the elections yesterday were so important. You know, 100 plus women were elected into office. That's a big deal. You know, Native American woman. We've had so many, you know, people of color now. It's so important. And why do we have to fight this hard? I ask myself this all the time. I mean, I sort of know the answer, but then I get irritated by it. That we always have to fight for something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Whether it's being a lion tamer.
Right, or anything you want to do. I don't know. I don't think about it as fighting for, or I don't think about the why of stuff because I just think you have to do.
I think that's the journalist in me. I look at something and go, wait a minute, why? But you're right. Just forget why. Just go do it.
Right. It's like, you know, to me, I just don't hear no anymore, and I love that about
I've never
Mabel.
heard
She
no.
didn't hear no. It's like, really? Okay. Just runs in a cage and starts working with the tiger. Essentially, not quite, but you know, it's also I'm fascinated by other times. Like, you can't really do that nowadays. There'd be so many regulations of this or that.
Oh, my God.
You know.
Well, look, now you can't even work with animals like that.
No.
What are your thoughts
Sad.
on that?
I think it's really sad. You know, there has to be controls and you have to know what's going on, that the animals are protected. But everybody that I followed, they devote their lives to these animals. I mean, 24/7. And you can see it. They gave me, you know, any kind of access I wanted all day long. They're not abused. They're really treated well. A lot of these trainers also have big ranches, so when
The animals roam free.
they completely roam free. They're taken care of.
I mean, there's so many groups trying to shut down so much, including the local Los Angeles Zoo. I don't know how you feel about that, but you know, we're a very well-traveled family, so my kids have been fortunate enough to go to places like Africa and all over. And then I thought, so I recently took my oldest son to the zoo because we went to go see Jane Goodall, in fact. And as we were walking out, the habitats are a little small, but they're well taken care of. Yeah. And my son said to me, you know, Mom, we've seen them in the wild, but if they weren't here, no one would have an opportunity to see a rhino, an elephant, ever. You wouldn't even interact.
You don't have an appreciation of the animal if you're never exposed to it. It's like, oh, so they're killing elephants someplace.
There you go.
You know, what does it mean unless you actually have that contact? And I think, and what Mabel was seeing towards the end of her life, she really feared that we're going to lose this one-on-one contact and this understanding. I mean, she was always trying to understand these tigers and to pass that information on to other generations, which it's dying. We will see the end of animal acts in our lifetime soon. It's very hard for them to get permits in certain towns, so they can't even go anywhere. They get death threats, these trainers, and
no, they do.
It's sad. I mean, we followed one circus in Texas, and it was a little, we forget there's these little towns with nothing in it, and those shows were packed with the kids just in awe of these animals. And
you're right, it's teaching them.
Yeah, and it's also, and all the trainers talk about the education and how we have to preserve these animals and how we have to treat them, and sad.
I also want to talk about Bound by Flesh, that documentary. I mean, I'm just, about the Siamese twins. Yeah. Again, fascinating stories. I mean, how do you even, I guess, do you write this and then you go and you decide you want to film this and their stories? Because it's truly just so unique. Your niche is so unique. I know you're well-read and you have an intense interest in this, but...
It's just,
do you almost fall in love with these people?
Yes, something has to absolutely obsess me because, it takes away from my family life. It takes away from my kids. The first film, Behind the Burlesque, we traveled 2 years all over America. Just, excuse me, oh my God, there's somebody we can interview. We're gone. And then these people stay with you forever. I mean, I've been to memorials. I've sat on this one 97-year-old's bed holding her hand when she said she wanted to die. I mean, so these people stay in your life forever. So I have to fall in love with them. Now, when I did Daisy and Violet Hilton, they had been long gone, but I found their goddaughter, and I just really wanted, first it's just the fascination of who is this? Who are these people?
Well, that's what I mean. And then you fall in love
Yes.
with them. You just, dead or alive.
Right.
You're just, they become a part of your
And then
soul.
you just, you've got to tell that story. I try and go as many places as they lived, and the place where they died is in this terrible part of town, and I can't remember the state right now. It was just me and my cameraman, and we drove up and down the street. I was like, should I go knock on the door? I'm glad I didn't. We could have probably been shot, but...
You know, the life of a filmmaker is not quite, particularly a documentary filmmaker.
Not glamorous.
Is not the glamorous life that a lot of people live in Hollywood. Let's talk about Hollywood now for a minute. One of your main claims to fame in Hollywood is Polar Express, one of my personal favorites. I love that film.
It's a great film.
Who was your character?
I was the sister of the main guy and the mom. So we played two characters.
You were both.
Yeah.
Wow. Is it tough acting, doing that kind of acting? Because it's clearly different than...
You know what? It's exactly like doing a stage show, a theater stage show. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Theater, stage, same, yeah.
You do the scene from beginning to end. It's not cut up. And then it's very technically crazy. And it's not animated. So we're actually, when you see the arm move,
you do.
That's me.
Yeah. Very. And you're married, of course, to Robert Zemeckis of Forrest Gump fame. And I said to you earlier before the cameras were rolling, what's it like to be married to a Hollywood icon? To which your answer was, please.
You'll have to ask him what it's like to be married to me.
You got to love that. That's guts. But you guys must have such a cool, interesting life. What's Robert like? I mean, he's behind two of my favorite films. He really is. Forrest Gump is truly up there with The World According to Garp. Remember that? Gump.
It's a great book too.
And Ghost. I know they're kind of big Hollywood movies, but I like those films. I like the stories that they tell, particularly Gump.
He's a storyteller.
Yeah, he's a storyteller. And a storyteller, whether you're a big-time storyteller like Robert and Steven Spielberg, because the other night you were at a function for the Shoah Foundation, of that status, or really smaller filmmaker and storyteller. A storyteller is a storyteller,
That's
right?
Absolutely. Whether it's books or movies or whatever. It's passing on these stories that we will lose if we don't.
Yeah. Is it hard to cross over sometimes from being an author to being a filmmaker to being an actress, or do you feel like it's all in the same genre, if you will?
Yeah, I think it's all storytelling.
Yeah, but that's because look what a voracious reader you are. You never walk without having a book in your hand. No. You probably go to the bathroom with a book in your hand. I'm sure of it.
I'm not answering that question.
No, but right. I mean, you're an incredible
in the
reader.
Bathtub, everywhere.
Oh,
when I'm
that's
waiting for
way
my
more
kids.
Glamorous, right? That's way more glamorous.
Because I have to have a bath every night.
Do we have that shot of Leslie? When was this taken? Was that this year? The tatas while you were voting? Well, not while you were voting. Wait a minute. It was this. Look at that. I mean, that's a girl with, may I say, they're not balls, but that's a girl with balls to just show that out on your Facebook page to get everybody to go to vote. I mean, all the men were like,
actually, I think I posted it everywhere, Instagram and Facebook.
Yes, it was your profile picture, and I'm like,
yeah, there you go.
Grab it. We're using it tomorrow because I thought this is. I'm going to go vote because of that picture. I mean, I just thought it was incredible.
Whatever it takes, vote, people.
But you're not afraid to get yourself out there. I mean, when I looked at you and I thought, how do I interview this lady? She's done everything.
That does not sound good.
Huh? Well, you have. You're interesting is what it is.
Look, you have one life.
Look, I'm a little like that. I'm eclectic, and it's not a taste for everyone. Let's put it that way.
Exactly.
What were you like as a kid?
Big reader, same thing.
Odd.
I've always liked the 30s, 40s. I loved watching movies about that. It's just a very interesting era, I think.
Do you believe in I don't know, what is it called? Not past life, but
reincarnation,
memory, like genetic memory or whatever? Because
I think it's something for sure.
I do too.
Otherwise, why would you have interest in or be drawn to something so particular?
I've always, since I was this big, been obsessed with two things. One, I told you on the phone, Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, come on, what 5-year-old is obsessed with Leonardo? Not DiCaprio. I'm talking da Vinci, and Egypt, the pyramids of Egypt, and just obsessed. Other kids were playing with their Barbies, and I had to know more. And I sometimes wonder about genetic memory, but what do I know? I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Or reincarnation? Or
yeah, I
anything?
think it's definitely something. It's just, as you see your kids, like the one's just drawn to this. Now they're raised the same way, but then another has an interest in this. And
my 3 are so different, so close, but so different. Do you find that with your 3?
yeah.
Really? And we don't have the kind of family where there's 3 ball players, 3 doctors. It's like they're all over the place in their interests, I mean.
Yeah.
So, and I applaud that. I love that. What do you do for fun other than hang out with like Oprah and those people at the Shoah Foundation? It's like, again, I'm flipping through all your materials. I'm like, geez.
I think my work is. I'm always working. I'm working on the next book. It's fun to me.
It is fun.
I like to create.
Yeah, and when you're a creator, that's just what you do. You wake up creating in the middle of the night. I don't know how you rest, but I don't rest all that well. And when I wake up, bing, I've got something in my head that I want to create, and I always think of how I'm going to get it out there. Yeah. People who want to write a book and they have an intense interest, do you have advice for them on how they do that?
You just do it.
I like your attitude.
You really
Quit putting
think
shit
about
in
it
your
all
way.
day. You just do it. I write, and it's painful because the first, however many drafts are so crappy. It's like you don't even just read it. It's like just get it out, redo it. I'm just a rewriter. I just want to get it all out and then refine it.
Do you have a special place where you do a lot of your writing?
No, I can write anywhere. I could write here for 10 minutes, or I could write out there for 2 hours. I don't.
That's focus.
Yeah.
But that's why you're a reader. I mean, you really have to have intense focus.
Yeah, because otherwise, if you wait for the perfect quietness or your perfect little room, I know writers who do that and they're very successful, so whatever works. Mine, I don't have that luxury with 3 kids, so I just put myself in the most semi-public place so I can keep my ears and eyes on them and have a little bit of, but I can write anywhere if I have to.
What are your kids? Are they taking after their parents, in the arts, or?
We'll see. They're pretty good at their little editing on the computers. They do little videos, which editing is one of my favorite things to do. I love editing. I edit my first cut of my films. Certainly not the last. I have a great editor.
It's very creative, and I have to tell you, it's like
it.
I always enjoyed editing my news stories, down to the frame. I'd be like, no, just do it right there. And I'm, the camera guy's thinking, God. But I'm very particular, and it's hard. I know sometimes for people to work like that, but I happen to be very down to the frame. I'll be like, no, one more, and but that's I like it too.
Yeah, I could.
But
sit
I'm obsessive
in a room
about
forever for
Really?
20 hours a day and just edit.
Me too.
I absolutely could.
Wow. So you're also working on. You've got a I want to talk about this. You've got kind of a total green home going on, don't you? You drive.
It's not total, but it's we're pretty good about the recycling, and my husband has a Tesla, and we have what are those other hybrid things? Highlanders, yeah, hybrids.
Highlander is not much of a hybrid, I'll tell you that. But although I think they have a hybrid Highlander.
Yeah, we do.
But,
Ours are.
Oh, you do? Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The guy who did Ed Begley Jr.'s home?
Yeah.
The
We're
architect.
not quite that. He's really crazy green.
He's a very good friend of mine, the architect there. Very, very close friend of mine. And he was telling me, I had him on the show not long ago, in fact. And I was telling him and complaining about my electric and water bills, like $2,500. He goes, Ed's bill is $10. I'm like, what? Yeah, he made it to the point where it's $10.
Wow,
I mean,
that's
but
pretty great.
it's not that expensive to do that. So people who are starting from the ground up and they're building something, why not try and be
do it now.
ecologically conservative?
Somebody's got to be.
Yeah, it's very simple, his entire plan on how he does it and recycles water that's dripping down and reuses it. And
It's great.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you're also working, you've got a website going on, right, about burlesque? And aren't you
I do,
developing
yeah.
emojis and stuff? I mean,
I did. I have a line of burlesque emojis because nobody did. So they're really burlesque, pin-up, and then a few things I like Cosmopolitan because nobody had it in there, and a pink Cadillac because nobody had that, pink poodles, flamingos, nobody had that. So, so I've got a line of emojis. The
Wow.
Burlesque.
Can I put my face on it?
Yes, you can.
So I could put my
People
little face.
have personalized them.
Yeah, because I've personalized lots of emojis.
Yeah.
So how do I find that? Because I would love to be
It's on iTunes, the Burlesque.
The Burlesque.
Burlesque. I don't think there's a the.
The Burlesque.
Let me look.
Wait a minute. That's the emoji thing, or is that your?
No, it's called Burlesque. I don't even know what my own stuff is. I'm terrible. Burlyqji. Burly QG. They're really cute, I must say.
Your upcoming film with Steve Carell, what was he like to work with?
Sweetheart, super talented, but a really nice guy, which, you know, it's also a nice perk when you're working. Somebody's not a, you know, a-hole, but he's great.
Yeah. It's tough, right, when you're making a film. You get so close with people, they become your family, and then all of a sudden, poof,
Bye.
It's hard seeing people. But then, you know what it is? Don't you feel like when you reconnect, it could be a year later?
Yeah.
And
because you have a different kind of connection.
you have a different kind of connection.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
some of my, you know, like you had Blake Boyd on the show. We were in acting class.
Yeah.
You know, all my friends that we've, you know, because you really go through stuff in acting class. So
When were you and Blake? Hello, Blake Boyd. Thank you for this, by the way. I mean, he kind of introduced us, so thank you so much. You were supposed to be here today. What happened?
but we're so glad you didn't.
Yeah.
You just talk about yourself.
That's what she said. I said, is he coming? She goes, no, he'll just talk about it. That's love. Like, that's love right there. Because when you can do that, that's a friend. So, but you're right. You get so connected and you just have to dig so deep.
You know, any sharing, I think, of arts, that's what I partly when I interview, and I do all my research myself, and when I interview people, you know, you have to be respectful. I won't slant a story a certain way just because I love something. If the bad stuff comes up, it comes up. But they're opening their hearts to you, and they're opening their homes, and they're opening. I mean, I've interviewed these little old people like, you want to spend the night? I mean, they're just so gracious,
So kind. You know, it's interesting. I'm embarking on a project to document women and how they live around the world, actually, and how they live in their communities and in their societies. But I'm in the process right now of picking where I want to go because I want to pick carefully, you know, very, very carefully. And my son actually is studying out of the country right now. He said, Mom, be careful with your interpreters because, you know, you can talk to them and they could say, how's your day?
Right.
Or how's your day?
Right.
You know, and you can get a different answer out of
Right.
people. And I thought, you know, it's kind of clever.
That is good.
But it's a tough thing, but you know, sometimes you're just compelled to do that.
Yeah, I love interviewing people.
Do you?
Yeah, I love it.
You were saying you wanted a podcast. If you did, what kind of podcast would you do?
I don't know. Something same related to women, certain kind of work and entertainment.
You should do one because you'd be great on it. You know, I find it very freeing. You know, having worked for a network at Fox, not Fox Network, but 11, and then, but they're great people. Don't get me wrong. And CNN, who've always been great to me, really great. But it's not like I have to be somewhere at a certain time.
Right.
I can really pick and choose who I want to interview. It's actually very freeing, and you would be so incredible at it. I think to have your own little podcast.
One more thing on the list
Yeah,
to
just
do.
put it down there. So, Feuding Fan Dancers. Please pick this up. Where are you going to be this Friday?
I am going to be at Alosta Brewery in Covina, which is very funny. I saw them on Instagram. They had a Sally Rand beer, which they've created after Sally Rand.
after
and it's
Sally
good.
Rand.
They sent me a couple. They're good.
They sent you something?
So we're having a fan dancer. I'll do a reading, talking, and have some Sally beer.
That's really wonderful. And then you'll be signing
It's
books.
fun, yes.
You'll be signing books there.
But they're available everywhere, bookstores, Amazon, my website, blah, blah.
You know, but what interests me most about this and about you and about what you're doing and highlighting these women is there's so many beautiful stories that women have that people just don't know and are only now just starting to come out because, you know, just of what's been going on in the past few years. And finally, women are feeling like they can speak. You know, regardless of what you do in life, a homemaker, a stripper, a businesswoman, we've all gone through so much. We're very interesting. As I said to my husband the other day, I said, look, we're so different than you. We are the gateway to living. So we just have different experiences and how we feel about things. And I think the more stories like this get out,
And the more women come together to celebrate other women.
and really come together, like not just like get on the bandwagon and go, oh yeah, and then disappear, but do something.
Right.
So
I mean, I've had, you know, amazing support and help from really big authors. So it's, you know, female. So it's always nice when somebody pushes you along.
Yeah. You've also done theater, too. You did a one-woman show. Mm-hmm. How did you like that?
Loved it.
Yeah.
Too hard to, I mean, I produced and basically directed it and wrote it and starred in it. So I've stopped doing it because I can't produce it myself. It's just too, I wanted to like kill myself. It's just too
Why?
much work.
Yeah, no, I
mean,
understand.
you know, I can't be like taking ticket information. Wait, I got to go on right now. You know, it's too much.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing
you.
this. And people who want to find you, how can they find you if they can't make it to the book signing?
Leslie Zemeckis everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, my website.
Yeah, and you're pretty public about everything. Even like the profile picture that's still up with those tatas. How long are you going to keep that thing
I don't
up?
think it is. It's supposed to be just a day. Oh, well, maybe sometime today. I did it for the election. It'll go down. So
There it is. So we'll just
better
leave it up
hurry.
as we're saying goodbye. And also your book, Feuding Fan Dancers. And don't forget her upcoming film with Steve Carell, December
21st. Welcome
December
to Norway.
21st. Oh, wonderful.
Can't wait.
Thank you for sharing your time. I really appreciate
you.
it. And everybody, thanks for being here for a really interesting edition of Deborah Kobylt Live. Oh, what do we have here?
hot.
Oh, let me have my fan. No, this is mine. Oh, my God. Look at this. Are you going to be handing these out in Covina?
might.
Here, you've got another
Special
fan.
people. Oh,
Oh,
I
lovely.
have a fan.
Oh, thank you. I'm a fan. So thank you, Ms. Leslie Zemeckis, for joining us. And we will see you next time. In fact, next week, we've got Gloria Allred. She's got a lot to say about what's been going on in the election. See you next time.
Awesome.